Black Myth Wukong has all the Wokies up in arms, guys. And let's be real, they're upset because this is probably going to be 1,000 times better than Star Wars Outlaws, which is the game that they're all wanting to push. Now, Screen Rant wrote this terrible review to where, get this, they're even having to go back and edit to remove the writer's name for protection, right? They put a terrible review out here that was fair at first, but then when you look down and you see what they knock the game for, you could see there's a bullet point right here that says largely lacks inclusion and representation. And that's what all these DEI political activists that are cosplaying as gaming journalists are all worried about. Whether a game checks off little boxes on this DEI list to get ESG points. Sweet Baby Inc. is one of the big culprits of it. They want to enforce this wokeness into video games, and people want to be like, well, what's the problem? It's diversity. What's wrong with having representation in games? Okay, diversity on paper might be a good thing, but the execution that companies like Sweet Baby Inc. and Ubisoft and you name it, all these wokies that are infecting the gaming industry, they're forcing it. They're putting woke ideologies behind it. There's spitefulness behind it. It's a my way or the highway type of thing. And looking at Black Myth Wukong, they've already had hit pieces written on this game in the past. If you guys remember, IGN literally wrote a hit piece by Rebecca Valentine that tried to say that this studio was sexist and that they had misogyny and all sorts of other weird allegations behind it because, according to rumor, Sweet Baby Inc. is allegedly extorting the developers of it. And they told them they're not going to cave in, so they're getting smeared. Well, this article on Screen Rant has literally a con that it's lacking in inclusivity and diversity. That's a first for me in a review for a video game. You can see they gave it good praise. They said combat's fluid and fun. Cinematography can be breathtaking at times. Great diversity in items and mechanics. But then somehow, even though the combat is fluid and fun and the cinematography can be breathtaking, the game performance is unpolished and gameplay becomes repetitive over time. That sounds like it's contradicting, but then also it's lacking in inclusivity and diversity. Are you kidding me? So I'm like, okay, let's go ahead, just humor me. Let's look at what what they're saying as far as lacking diversity goes here. So you can see this writer, who is now hidden, by the way. Screen Rant removed the writer's name for fear of backlash so that they wouldn't be harassed. You can see they said, while my analysis and review of Black Myth Wukong remain focused on gameplay, it's important to mention the controversy surrounding the game studio. So they're literally talking about the IGN article. In fact, they linked to it, which was this dumb hit piece that Rebecca Valentine wrote. Literally, it's all a whole bunch of them teaming up together to smear a company for not being woke enough. That's what it really is. So they said, reports of misogyny and sexism from developers. Playing as a female gamer allowed me to notice issues surrounding inclusion and representation. So that explains it. This is a female wokey nose ring brigade libtard, probably. So as far as chapters 1 and 2, while characters are clearly fictitious and fantastical creatures, there were no female or feminine NPCs, enemies, or bosses present. The only exception, if you can call it female, is a boss named Mother of Stones in Chapter 2, which is nothing more than a steel glowing rock with no abilities being guarded by other enemies. So it's funny. These wokies want to complain about female representation when most of the time they can't even tell you what a female is. They pick and choose when they want female representation, right? It's facts. It's facts. So he said the lack of diversity and inclusivity resonates with the misogynistic comments reported to have been made by developers, which express disdain for women playing their games. Although Black Myth Wukong does have truly enjoyable moments, the underlying feeling that women aren't welcome in this world felt present throughout my gameplay experience. Oh my God. Almost a good chunk of this review deals with this, bitching about female representation instead of actually talking about the game. They took the opportunity to make it a woke narrative soapbox about how they don't feel represented. Imagine that. This is what we're getting from video game journalists now. Them using soapbox, narratives to complain about how they don't feel represented in their fucking games. Half the time they don't even talk about the game, like Alyssa Mercante in her Elden Ring DLC review. So she does say it's worth noting the game is based on the novel Journey to the West, which does consist of a few important female characters. To not include any women or to only include a few in an adaptation meant for a modern audience is quite discerning. Who said this was made for a modern audience? Again, this is those people that want everything catered to this modern audience. This modern audience doesn't exist, y'all. Because guess what? Everything that's made for a modern audience flops financially. They don't show up to support it. Companies literally have to give away free Pride cosmetics and items because these wokies that want Pride to be celebrated won't even financially support it. It's all a fucking rouse. They don't give a shit about what they're being activists for. It's facts. They really don't give a crap about what they're preaching for and what they want to enforce on people. So yeah, you could just see this whole article is absolutely all this crybaby bullshit about women not being in games, and they literally use it as a con because they even say, while this doesn't take away from the exhilaration and fun of boss fights themselves, women fans of Souls-like games may have a different perspective, especially given that, according to reports, the developer also suggested that women aren't capable of enjoying or being skilled at these types of games. Again, pushing more of this fucking narrative that they're sexist, that they hate women, things like that. And you know what? They even kind of downplay the skill of female gamers with this last part, because you can see the irony behind this sentiment is that Black Myth Wukong is among the easiest of Souls-like games and may have overestimated its ability to hang with them in terms of difficulty. While thematically and stylistically it undoubtedly falls under this category, it does not quite fit the bill in the technical skills required. So are they trying to imply that women can't play video games, so it should have women representation? That's what I'm getting right there. So this article, like, honestly, it's just nuts to see how much you see these websites try to tear down a game that isn't following Sweet Baby Inc., that isn't caring about DEI. You can see it's a 3 out of 5, which is very good by them. Despite its flaws, it's worth trying. But they honestly take this opportunity to talk about diversity. They're saying right here, most of its shortcomings lie in performance, diversity, and wasted environmental factors. So the fact that you can't play as a female in this game counted against it. To me, that's super fucking retarded. And you can see it's now by the Screen Rant team. They redacted the original writer of this for fear of them getting attacked, which I'm sure it's eventually going to come out. It's going to come clean. I don't encourage targeted harassment towards these individuals, but they need to learn that even if you're just a writer or a reviewer, you're not immune to criticism. You're not immune to people calling you out about your reviews that are full of weird woke narratives and stuff and bitching about lack of diversity in a game. This is a game that's going to come out and kick ass. And they're more worried about female representation in it and using a article about a review of the game to push this whole ideology and push this narrative that the company's sexist. Get out of here. This is one of the worst reviews I've seen in my life. Ridiculous.